Hello, Sue.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good.
I get so tired of that stupid countdown, so I thought to myself, you know what? I'm not even going to use that anymore
Yeah,
because I don't like the new music that they put on it.
right.
And I don't know, it just gets aggravating. Although, sometimes it allows for people, if you play it, then play your intro, it allows
Uh-huh,
for people to come on in.
right.
But other than that, I mean, I don't like it. So maybe one day I'll be smart enough to make our own
Right.
or add some. I don't know how to do all that though. So I'm trying to figure out how to use StreamYards and YouTube Studio together. You can do it. It can be um, you can stream from YouTube using StreamYards, but I just
Um,
can't figure out right now how to do it. It's so complicated, or it looks complicated. It's really probably not, but
uh-huh.
I've just been fooling with it a little bit today. So, how have you been?
I've been okay.
And what did you
Uh,
do over Easter for Easter?
We didn't anything at all. It was
Oh,
just him and I. Um,
yeah,
of course, we stayed close because of Duke. Um,
yeah,
and he worked for 2 hours, and then he went out and mowed the front yard because I had already mowed the side and the back, and so
yeah.
he did that, and then weeded out front.
Uh,
Um, I got a couple boxes ready to send off to Nick. So,
yeah. Oh,
and
awesome.
sending him his comforter, sheets, and pillowcases, and his football jerseys, and
Yeah.
some shirts that he had here. So I got 2 boxes. I'm gonna tomorrow.
So, how is Duke doing?
Oh my gosh, it's just amazing. It is just if you would have asked me Friday night home with him,
Yeah.
I would have said he's not going to make it through the weekend. There's
Right.
just no way. You
Yeah.
know, we don't want him to suffer.
Oh, absolutely not.
One
Yeah.
night, my husband slept down with him. Took him because you had to take him outside. You had to help him down. We have like 3 stairs to the yard off the deck, so you had to hold his harness and him because he has a head tilt,
Yeah.
and so he kind of he walks like he's drunk,
Yeah.
and then he would fall.
Right.
So oh, and then the next morning he goes, I helped him down the stairs, and he walked. So he has this thing where he walks the whole perimeter of the yard every day. Does his
Right.
business, and then he does that.
Yeah.
He did a part of it, and then by Sunday he was walking the whole yard,
Right.
and
Uh,
not flying. He still walks kind of drunk. He kind of because he still has that head tilt, which um, I think he may not get that. He may not. He may always have it.
uh-huh.
Um, so uh, we'll see. But he's just gonna bring his kennel back up. I'm not gonna let him back upstairs just because he was having access. He has a hard time getting upstairs anyway.
Right. Yeah.
But he couldn't walk on the wood floors when we brought him home, and
Uh-huh.
by Saturday he was walking fine. My husband,
That's
I got
amazing.
up Saturday morning, and there was this trail from his kennel in the living room to the back door of rugs. So he the whole house and got all the throw rugs
Uh-huh.
and
That's
put
so
them
fun.
so that he could to get to the back door. And
Oh, Lord
I
have mercy.
yeah, I'm all the way yesterday. We don't. He's walking just fine.
Oh, that's so
Yeah.
good. So in case anybody doesn't know, let me
Hey,
explain what
Tricks.
happened last week. Hey, Trix. Um, we had this live that we're doing right now scheduled for last Wednesday. Hey,
Yeah.
Joan. And we had Sue had an emergency situation come up with uh her fur baby Duke. So
Yes. I know.
he had to be rushed to the ER, to the vet ER, and so he was in really, really bad shape, and so
Yeah.
kept him until Friday.
Yeah.
Well, he was still in bad shape on Friday, but they brought him home. They wanted, she and her husband wanted to bring him home and and see how he would do for the weekend. But at that point on Friday evening, Sue didn't have much hope for him to get any better.
Yeah.
Well, so they get up Saturday morning, and it's just like the difference between night and day. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, my thing is fixing to go dead. Hold on, we're fixing to lose the stream. So,
Yeah. He just like, yeah, night and day. And then it's, he's gotten stronger and
yes,
stronger.
that's
So
so good.
yeah. So
Yeah, it's really good.
and
So then, of course, yesterday was Easter Sunday, and we knew a lot of people, were celebrating with their families. So that's why we didn't do it yesterday and why we're doing it today. But, I guess it was some conversation amongst some other creators, and I just wanted to get that out there that, we had, that explains what happened. There was
yeah,
nothing
we
else
have
to it.
real life issues.
Right. Yeah. And uh, I posted it on my Twitter, but yeah, I did. I made the big announcement,
Yeah.
that we'd be moving it. So, but of course my Twitter's locked down, so the people that needed to see it got to see it. And of course, that thread turned into a really big long thread, because everybody was supporting you and sending
Yeah.
prayers and
And I
love and stuff.
appreciate that, everything, you
Yeah,
guys. I was just
yeah.
scared.
I know you were because I could
And
tell
then
with it.
having to, tell my son 3,000 miles away.
Right,
Um,
yeah,
I mean, Duke is basically my husband's daughter,
yeah,
and but him and Nick were really close too. Just and having to call my son and tell him, and he was like, I can't get home, and no,
oh Lord,
I know,
bless his heart.
I know,
You
calm
know,
down,
yeah,
you
that's
know,
what phones are for. And have you video chatted him or anything to
yeah,
let him see that? Good,
yeah, did, and
awesome.
and I said if anything were to happen, we would, have video,
Hmm. Hmm.
so yeah,
Um,
so for
so
him.
my number two question is, how is your brother?
Um, I haven't really talked to him, and he hasn't heard anything. So
Oh, okay,
yeah, I don't know. We'll talk this week. So
okay,
I don't know if he's waiting for more results and doesn't want to share yet.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's a
yeah,
possibility.
yeah. So we'll find out this week.
Oh,
Yeah.
you absolutely will. So,
Oh yeah.
still praying
I go
for him.
home in a month. I go home in 4 weeks from yesterday. So
I know you do.
I
I
know.
know. I
He
know.
said, Mama.
I'm so glad you're gonna get to be with your mama. You
Yeah.
know, she
Mm,
probably really needs you right now too, especially with how your
yeah.
brother, her son, is doing. So,
Yeah.
um, I'm sure she's missing you greatly.
Yeah. I know. I can't wait to go see.
I know you can. Okay, so our topic for this conspiracy theory is not about anybody. It's not about anybody on YouTube.
Yeah.
You know, that's been said. So if you're watching and thinking we're going to talk about you, you can exit on out right now. This is actually about the 911 conspiracy theory. And I, I was unaware there even was one until Mo B brought it to my attention. So there absolutely is, this 9/11 conspiracy theory. And I should have already had this pulled up on my phone, but stupid me was doing other stuff before I was actually trying to get in on that other stuff, and I probably got a million different things on here. Oh God, It's probably way back here. Okay, let me just do it this way. Hold on. Um, but it's really fascinating. And especially the video that we're going to share will definitely get you to question what actually happened on that day. And so, did you get a chance to read it, to
Um,
watch it?
a little bit, but not a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I'll tell you this. There are various conspiracy theories that attribute the preparation and execution of the September 11th attacks against the United States to parties other than or in addition to Al Qaeda. These theories, these include the theory that high-level government officials had advanced knowledge of the attacks. Um, and that's kind of crazy. Government investigations and independent reviews have rejected these theories. Proponents of these theories assert that there are inconsistencies in the commonly accepted version or that there exists evidence that was ignored, concealed, or overlooked. So, um, we're going to, um, I'm going to share my screen. And I don't think I should get in trouble for this, but we will, just in case, I will stop it and we'll chat about it as we go along because I don't want to get in trouble. But I really don't think we will um, get in trouble for that. And Sue, if you could let me know when that's up there.
Yes, it is up there now.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So here we go.
So we're going to look at the empirical evidence. By empirical evidence, we mean the evidence that anybody can look at and see. So all of you are capable of knowing what happened. I don't want you to take my word for it. I want you to understand it for yourself. And I want you to be empowered to own the information. The towers didn't burn up, nor did they slam to the ground, but turned into dust in midair. The buildings turned to dust. We don't know a name for that. It needs a new name. I call it dustification. That's building 3. A lot of people overlook that building. That material
I thought that was pretty cool that she named this dustification.
Yeah.
That was
there
crazy.
is all that was left of that building. And this is the remains of Tower 2, about the lobby size down there. To remind you of how big of a mass was there. And then it is gone. This picture was taken on 9/11. Where is all the debris? Nikola Tesla wanted to give free energy to the world, but was afraid it might be used for evil purposes. Well, been there, done that. Already happened. Here is Tower 1.
This is crazy. And,
So,
go ahead.
okay, so in Seattle,
Hmm.
we had what was called the Kingdom. And
Uh huh.
played our Major League Baseball,
Uh huh.
and the Seahawks played there.
Right.
It was a dome, and it was basically cement or whatever. So when they blew that up, to take it down,
Yeah.
the new stadium right there,
Yeah.
2 new ones, a baseball and so they have a baseball stadium and a football stadium.
Hmm.
And so when it took it down, it's just nothing but like this dust. I mean, yeah, debris, but I mean, it just looked like dust. It just like a plume of dust, just 'cause they blew it up. So with a plane hitting that and it's so hot, wouldn't that make that happen?
Well, you're asking the wrong person. I don't know. I just uh all I know is from what I know from watching this
Right.
professor or Dr. Judy Wood talk about it. So,
Right.
but I mean, yeah, it's possible if because you can take like a concrete block. Well, no, if you just take like a concrete block and slam it down on a surface, it just kind of, cracks into pieces.
Right.
But I wonder if you took a concrete block from 100 stories up and dropped it down, if it would just crumble into pieces or if it would turn into dust.
Yeah.
That's, I don't know. I just
Huh.
don't know.
Okay.
One turning into dust, frothing up into dust. And you can see it shooting up and out. In controlled demolition, buildings are chopped up into chunks, the chunks slam to the ground, and then there's dust.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
So, maybe that's what you saw or what happened down there
Right.
in
But when you
Seattle.
take in, there was so much. I mean, it had to have blown up because a plane hitting that with all that fuel on it. You know.
But yeah, they stood for a long time.
Yeah.
The buildings stood for a while, and then all of a sudden comes down the first one,
Yeah.
and then a little bit later comes down the second one. So,
Yeah.
um, I would have thought they would have just completely burned up with all the
Right.
fuel and everything. But I mean, I don't know. I don't study stuff like that to be educated about it.
This is dust before it hits the ground. So why didn't people see this on 9/11? Problem-solving skills, groupthink, or peer pressure. And the third thing is they're terrified of the implications. If they see what happens, oh dear, But that doesn't change the fact that it happened. But we're going to focus on problem solving. I know the answer is 27. Am I right? What's the question?
Let's see.
Before you know,
Okay, so Trick said, would the force of the moving plane not be enough to send pieces of debris flying? Yeah, I would think so. Do y'all? God, I should have watched that video again of when the planes
There
actually
was
hit it.
that were found further away from the actual spot where the tower stood.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. That's true. Hi, pork chop. Oh my goodness, yeah. Hey there. I love that there are more moderators now. Me too. Hey, KCG. Good to see you.
Oops.
She's way up top, listening from the bushes, she says.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
if an answer is right or wrong, you have to know what the question is.
Okay,
In this
GG.
equation here, if you add the 4 and 5 first and then multiply by 3, you get 27. If you multiply 5 times 3
Oh, a
and then
math
add the
lesson.
4, you get 19. Maybe we should just add the 2 and we'll get, the average. A lot of folks approach 9/11 that way. If you average everything together, let's say it was this plus this plus this. No, that's not the correct answer. You start out with a theory, get people to focus on all the possibilities that they can think of. Then you have biased data collection, because what happens if it was something else that you didn't foresee? You've already assumed a conclusion. You've already assumed how it.
Oh my goodness. This lady's too smart for me, really. Yeah, Joan, there was a lot of fuel in those planes because they hadn't been in the air, that long when all this started happening.
Right.
So,
Right.
yeah.
How it happened, what's it? So essentially what you're doing is starting out with a theory of how it happened and using that to determine what happened. That's backwards. That's the wrong order. That's a syntax error. Here are some steel beams falling through the air, some of these wheat checks. The outer columns, that's an enormous amount of dust. Turns out that is the steel frothing up and turning to dust as it falls. So here they are falling through the air. trailing an enormous amount of dust. That dust was so dense it blocked out 100% of the sunlight for some period of time. So determining what happened first is important. Then you can determine how it happened, who was involved, why they did it. So focusing on what happened is the most important thing of it all. The towers did not slam to the ground, because if they'd slammed to the ground, several things would have happened. You would have had over 1 million tons of debris piled up there. That didn't happen.
Ruh-roh. Let's see.
Lack of debris. If there was over 1 million tons of debris on the ground, we'd certainly see it. There are the two towers. There's building 3. And you go to work in Bankers Trust, about the 20th floor, and you look out the window across the street. What do you see? What are you going to see? Oops, where'd the building go? Tower 1 is gone, Tower 2 is gone. Where's the material? The main thing of what happened, the towers didn't burn up, nor did they slam to the ground. They turned into dust in midair. All of lower Manhattan would have been flooded because the towers were built in the Hudson River on bedrock 70 feet below the water table with a dike around it. The dike would have been ruptured, flooding all the subway tunnels. That didn't happen. Here's when it was initially built before the WFC buildings were built across the street. There's the bathtub, there's the original shoreline, and they, of course, wanted more of this real estate in Manhattan. So they built the towers out here with the dike around them. If those towers had slammed down, those would have been busted. As a matter of fact, you know that building 6 with that hole in the middle? When they went to take down this portion of it, they pulled it down with cables. They didn't want to use explosives because they knew it would damage the wall.
We had to be very careful how we demolished Building 6. We were worried about the Building 6 coming down and then damaging the slurry wall, so we wanted that particular building to fall within a certain area.
There it goes. There it goes.
And if the towers had slammed...
But there again, there was a lot of dust when they did that.
Absolutely.
So I wonder if that was dust from them doing that, or if that was dust that was coming up when that stuff started hitting the dust that was down there.
Right.
I couldn't really tell.
slammed to the ground, the seismic signals, that measure earthquakes, would have registered that much material slamming to the ground, and that didn't happen. Seismic impact, this is the real smoking gun. One of the first responders said, "I don't remember the sound of a building hitting the ground. Somebody told me that it was measured on the Richter scale. I don't know how true that is. If the building's hitting the ground that hard, well, I don't remember the sound of it." All right, this is from earlier that year. There's an earthquake in Midtown Manhattan. So let's look at the signal the towers made. The ground shook for 8 seconds. Notice there's no other signal prior to this one, and the waves are very wide spacing. In a typical earthquake, you first get the P wave. The primary wave arrives, and then the secondary wave arrives. Notice the spacing. They're much closer together than these signals. This one does not reflect a P wave or an S wave. The seismic signal did not travel through the earth. There were only surface waves. But the difference in the timing of the P wave and S wave arrival tells you how far away the epicenter is, because those two waves travel at different speeds through the earth. And it's only 8 seconds. It takes 9.5 seconds to drop a bowling ball off the roof and have it hit the pavement below. Houston, we have a problem. Tower 1, that's its demise. And then all afternoon, there's these quarry blasts that were recorded. That's from the Fox Islands, which is part of the Aleutian Islands. They had a little earthquake up there. But there's a equivalent of 0.6 on the Richter scale for Building 7, which is this little line here. It was a non-seismic event. Building 7 went away and didn't make a seismic event that you could register on this chart. Where's the signal for Building 7?
Hey,
Now we're
Moby.
going to look out the other
Hi, Moby. How are you? How's the Max?
direction, over Building 4, and see what that looks like. The north wing of Building 4 is still there, but the main body is missing.
Huh.
That's weird. That's when it often gets forgotten. The north wing of it seemed to be sliced off like with an X-Acto knife, and the main body of the building just went missing.
Hey, Grace Case.
Where'd it
How are
go?
you?
Mind you, that was also the location where the top of Tower 2 was tipping over and then it turned to dust. That's where it would have fallen. If the top 35 floors of Tower 2 had fallen to the ground, landed on Building 4, would it have looked like that? This is a top view of the various towers, buildings, showing you where the holes were. Weird holes. Here is the main part of Building 4 that's gone missing. You have holes in the streets, including Vesey Street, and this huge hole in Building 6. Looks like a lot of smaller holes, like a post hole digger dug it out. It was announced 6 different times at least that One Liberty Plaza was collapsing. It's still standing. It became a running joke.
Because of that One Liberty Plaza building, which is just to the east of the World Trade Center complex. We have talked to rescue workers who tell us they saw the building starting to twist and then said they saw some windows starting to break.
Well, we are seeing the windows breaking from where we're standing. We can see the windows falling out or facing falling out.
Now, we are told that some 100 buildings in the surrounding area have been damaged. There was a report last night that a 54-story building was about to collapse. We have now confirmed through the building management of that building that is not true.
Wow. There was a parking garage below the building. Oh my gosh, I can't see that all. Much of the debris. What does that say, Sue? What did Pork Chop say?
Much of the debris, there was a parking lot below the building,
Yeah.
and much of the debris went down.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. I remember seeing something about people in that parking garage. Oh my gosh, that
Yeah.
was so long ago. Oh man.
Here we are. There's an ambulance. You see, I hope you can see the north
Oh, yeah.
wall and the south wall. Where's the building? You see the north wall and the south wall, and there's virtually nothing in between. This ambulance doesn't look clobbered. No crunched in marks.
Oh yeah.
You don't see steel beams on the.
Wow. I never thought about that. That's crazy right there. For that not to be just, squished to the ground.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ground, just this aluminum cladding that was a decorative type material. There's some steel wheat checks here stabbed into the pavement off the picture, but there really is very little steel. 110-story building just went missing. This was from a news report the day after.
Office is down in Lower Manhattan today, George. Jackie, Judd, and several other people keep asking us, where did all the rubble go?
If you look behind me, you can see the very remains, the skeletal remains of the World Trade Center. And one volunteer, Robert Gerlitsky, explained to me the reason there's so little rubble is that all of it simply fell down into the ground and was pulverized.
Kind of silly there. I don't mean to pick on him. He's doing the best he can. What he's telling us is that there's virtually no building left. Here's a map of what was left. And let's focus at that point there, the base of Tower 1. 14 people walked out. 14 people walked out of here too. That little stub at the base of Tower 3. They were right down here at the base of Tower 1. 110-story building went away. And they weren't crushed. Jay Jonas, one of the...
Holy cow. Do you remember seeing anything about that, about the people walking out after it was crushed from the basement of the garage, whatever it was she said?
I remember people running out, but I don't remember when it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. That's crazy.
I had to go back and watch. I was when it was happening, and they had it on TV.
Yeah.
I wasn't there. I was at work when it happened. And normally, on my days off, I would have been watching the news that early, our time, back in Washington. I was at work.
Mm-hmm.
And we heard it from like the vendors coming in and drop it, because I work at a grocery store. And so early in the morning, we always had drivers coming in and dropping off the beer loads or whatever. And they were telling us about it. Yeah. Because we don't have a radio going or whatever.
Yeah, that's true. No tricks. The conspiracy is that, and it's hard to find anything on that because it is the government, but the conspiracy theorists say their biggest argument is that, number one, the government knew that the attacks were going to happen before they actually happened, and number two, that the government was involved with it.
Yeah.
Now, Moby was telling me about. Do y'all remember the fourth plane that went into that field in Pennsylvania?
Yeah, I remember that.
Okay. Well, there was no debris from planes. Any planes? Is that right, Moby? They couldn't find any. Yeah, that was Flight 93. Okay, and there were no fragments of plane that were found in that field, right? I think no bodies were found in that field either. So, according to the guy that little heart, I'm looking at this on my phone, and that little heart is blocking it. According to the guy who was on site, okay, no baggage too, yeah, in that field. So evidently that plane just flew on. It didn't really go down there. It was
So
like
they kidnapped all those people?
obviously, yeah, and probably killed them, right, Moby? Oh, yeah. DEW, do or controlled demolition, is what they're thinking actually happened to these to the buildings and stuff. So there's a lot of different to answer your question, Tricks, there's a lot of different conspiracy theories about the whole thing, but this lady is just trying to explain about what actually she thinks happened with the buildings. Yeah, the lady mentioned Tesla at the beginning. It was John Tesla. John Tesla, I guess, was a scientist or something.
There's already conspiracy theories going around already about the Pope dying today.
What?
Yeah.
So they're saying he didn't really die?
No, they're saying he died, but it's such a coincidence that Van see him yesterday.
Oh my God, yes, I saw that.
Yep. I was just
But
like,
he also delivered the Easter message yesterday as well.
the
You
Pope
know,
was 88 years old.
right? And he had a stroke.
He had a stroke. He had, as a young man, he had lost part of a lung.
Yeah, yeah, I saw
And
that too.
yeah, he had pneumonia. He, he died of natural causes, you know. He died of so it was a heart failure because of the stroke and everything else that's gone on with him. He was a sickly man. He was actually in a basically just out of it. You know, it's like there's already conspiracies and this girl that I know, I love her to death. Don't get it, but she's just like, I believe it. He had something to do with it.
Oh my God.
I'm like,
Okay.
okay, I gotta go now.
And it's not like he don't have guard, his body,
Yeah,
whatever.
there was
His
actually
people
yeah,
around
and
him.
there was actually a translator right
Yeah.
in the same room with
Right. Yeah.
him and Vance. Yeah. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's already started.
Oh
Yeah.
my God. Okay.
So they're yeah, it's gonna start, it's gonna start right away, you know.
Liberals. I'll say nothing else. All right, let's get back to this.
The firefighters trapped in there said, I looked and said, guys, there used to be 106 floors above us, and now I'm seeing sunshine. There's nothing above us. Those big buildings don't exist. And he later said, these were the biggest office buildings in the world, and I didn't see one desk, one chair, one phone, nothing.
Listen carefully.
The collapse of the North Tower created a massive rush of air. The 110-story tower disintegrated in just 10 seconds.
They were debating if the towers collapse. They called it collapsing.
The collapse of the North Tower created a massive rush of air. The 110-story tower disintegrated in just 10 seconds. The collapse of the North Tower created a massive rush of air. The 110-story tower disintegrated in just 10 seconds.
In controlled demolition, buildings are chopped up into chunks, the chunks slam to the ground, and then there's dust. This is dust before it hits the ground. The Seattle Kingdom was a controlled demolition.
There you go.
Notice that the dust doesn't rise much above the highest point of the building. For Building 7, which is this little line here, it was a non-seismic event. Building 7 went away and didn't make a seismic event that you could register on this chart. Well, here's a controlled demolition, the Seattle Kingdom. March 26, 2000. The P wave arrives at the seismic station and the S wave arrives at the seismic station. See how closely spaced that signal is. It takes 4 seconds to drop a bowling ball off the roof of the kingdom, just to give you relative size. Yet the ground shook for at least 9 seconds in the major part, so at least twice as long instead of less. Here are other signals. There are 5 different recording stations for Building 7. None of them could see an S wave or a P wave. They calculated when it should have arrived. The 6.4 is the time it takes to drop a bowling ball off the roof. The surface wave lasted for less time. And actually, one of those stations, they couldn't even find a surface wave arriving. Where's the signal for Building 7? When NIST was having a meeting about trying to figure out what happened to Building 7, they were debating if the towers collapse, they called it collapsing, could have damaged the piping underground, and decided it couldn't.
I thought the seismic data you were going to look at was the collapse of the tower, particularly
the signal strength due to the towers were not of any magnitude that was seismically significant from an earthquake design standpoint or from the design or failure of a.
Oh, I get it now. I was sitting here thinking, and I thought this the other day, what in the hell does this have to do with anything? But, so Moby, correct me if I'm wrong, but what they're saying is when the dome fell in Seattle, it shook the earth, and it created the seismic event because all that stuff fell hard to the ground and caused the seismic event. But when the towers, or this tower that they're referring to, came down and there was not really a significant seismic event, it was because all the heavy stuff was disintegrated before it hit the ground. Did I say that right, Moby? I think I
a
did.
structural component or of, I would say, a piping system that might be used in a structure. So there wasn't anything that gave us pause in terms of that being a significant seismic event.
So what's going on here? No S wave, no P wave. Those two waves travel through the earth. This didn't slam to the ground. No big building slammed to the ground. Let's look at the possibilities. Tower 2 was the first tower to go away. If you turned all but the bottom 16 stories to dust and just dropped a 16-story building to the ground, it would make the seismic signal approximately that was recorded, which was a 2.1. Do the same thing for Tower 1. Dustify all but the bottom 20 stories, and you get the seismic signal that was recorded. And Building 7, if you turn all but the bottom 2.5 stories to dust, it would make the seismic signal approximately the same as what was recorded. This is compared to the Seattle King Dome. The Seattle King Dome was really this concrete ring, and it made a 2.3. As we saw before, the building is turning to dust as it falls. Building turned to dust. I don't think anyone can deny that. Many folks see these squirts out each of the faces at regular intervals and say, oh, those are squibs. Well, what I'd like to ask is why there isn't more stuff squirting out. If you turn the building to dust, if you have all these water tanks in the building, those are pressure vessels. When the walls of those begin to dissolve or weaken, at some point it's going to cut loose. And it's going to squirt water out. To me, that's what those look like. If you're getting this building to the ground in 9.5 seconds, that stuff's got to shoot elsewhere. The average speed it needs to shoot out is Mach 1.4. And the material from in the middle of the building outward, Mach 2.5. That should look like all the buildings adjacent to it have been machine gun fired. They didn't look like that. And if the building had been wired up with bombs, you ever see these signs? Turn off two-way radios and cell phones because they can cause explosives to be set off if you're going by like a rock quarry. But people think they heard explosions. Well, yeah. Bombs do go boom, but not everything that goes boom is a bomb. These Scott tanks, those are the air tanks the firefighters wear when they're in smoky environments so that they can breathe. They have extra Scott tanks they carry on their fire trucks. Those are exploding at ground level.
Here, hold on. You want to call your mother or something?
Many of them talked about that. These Scott tanks. There's various testimony, but one in particular that I'd like to read. Vehicle 219 destroyed. Was it on fire? What? Was it on fire? Fire, we saw the sucker blow up. It went boom. His vehicle just exploded. This is real dustification you're going to see here. That's the corner of Vesey Street and West Street. Yeah, you see this like a stick. Keep watching it. It turns to dust.
Oh,
Yep.
hey.
We will see it. See it there? This one we play a few times. Here it comes. And if we look at the intersection right below that, right by the Verizon building, you'll see there's a piece of aluminum cladding there, but you don't see any steel. That steel that we're watching does not hit the ground. Now we're going to watch another dustification. The building goes away and there's a few columns left standing. I believe those are the top of stairwell B, core columns, and watch, they'll turn to dust. They'll faint into dust. And this is building 7 over here, so we can see that's well above building 7. That's like 700 feet tall. And here it goes, it just faints into dust. My detractors like to say that the columns fell over and the dust was so fine that it hung in the air. Well, if it was so fine that it hung in the air, why didn't we see it? Why did it settle on the columns to begin with, on the vertical columns? Doesn't make sense. And here's a closer view, and then it starts to drop down and kind of faints, turns to dust. Now, if that thing tipped over, it would take out a few blocks worth of buildings. How's it going to go straight down? You got a 700-foot hole in the ground to drop it into? Again, if the dust is so fine that it hangs in the air, how did it settle on those columns? And another view. So there's no dust hanging around the outside of those columns, but we have dust shooting downward there. You can even see some wiring hanging out. How does it become fuzzy like that? Other than it's turning to dust. And there are other images where you have columns here that go away by the second image as it gets lower to the ground, which is over building 3. As the building's standing still, one face and one face only has opaque dust pouring out of it. I call that lather. Now, this is the north face of building 7 on a day when you had a light breeze, very light breeze, about 7 miles per hour, 8 plus 1 mile per hour. Just a light breeze. These windows are broken. If that's smoke, why is it one face only from ground to roof? And also, why is it not coming out those broken windows? If there's a traffic jam, wouldn't you think it would want to come out there? Dust roll out. The dust cloud is like a straight wall.
Oh, yeah. Y'all remember seeing all the people that were just absolutely covered in that dust. And I never thought anything about it, but I was stupid. So we're going to go, y'all, till about 8 o'clock. Then I'm going to get the timestamp of where we are at, and we will continue the rest of this one probably next Wednesday, because we have something planned for this Wednesday already. And then we'll probably do a game night on Wednesday night, a game night or something fun. Okay, does that sound good to y'all?
Just chasing these guys down the
Okay, doke, so I heard you.
Street. It isn't hot because it overtakes them and leaves them covered with dust. And this woman in the middle, she's not cooked by dust. Now, dust is going to get kicked up, but how can this fine of dust be settled out of the air? Because this is nice and clear down to here. The dust rolled out a certain distance and then went up. Bob and Bree, who lived here, videotaped it. It rolled out towards their apartment, but never touched their windows. It's amazing. This is 2 still shots of their video, and we're going to watch that video. It didn't quite touch the window and went up. Never touched the window, like within an inch or 2. And then it rose up like rising yeast bread. But that dust went up, or whatever it was.
Wow.
Those fumes, I call it fumes just generically, like it was on a mission to go up. Almost looks like a funnel cloud. Dark stuff went westward. The whitish stuff went south and up to a certain altitude and then sort of wafts away. This is about 6 weeks later. Notice they have misting going on. The dirt, how'd that dirt get there? What is this? Fumes coming up from the wet dirt. Now, what I mean by toasted cars, they're toast, they're history. I'm not implying that they're burned. This abrupt boundary, take a closer look. Totally toasted in the front, nice showroom kind of quality in the back, like it's got a new wax job. That's where most of the toasted cars were.
You said you saw melted tour buses, melted cars?
The cars that were right down there, it was just unbelievable. They were twisted and melted into nothing. The debris is just unbelievable. And then you can see fire trucks and police vehicles that were down there early that all their windows, the windshields are completely blown out.
So here's a comparison. This one that has this nice, clean look, and from a regular car fire, you get these burn lines. Burnt cars usually have scraps of glass left in the corner.
At least you have some remnants. You have literally an engine that is melded together with other parts of the car. Look across the street there. You've got a Con Ed truck. That truck, too, in terrible shape.
The stuffing of a burnt car usually has something left in it, where the toasted cars is nothing whatsoever left in. I think that's trash that was tossed in later.
Car after car after car, buses completely obliterated and burned straight down to the steel.
Where are the scorch marks on this bus? If it were on fire, regular conventional fire, wouldn't you see, charred marks or something? Note the missing door handles and missing windows. Here's the toasted car park. My detractors like to say toasted cars don't count because they're towed. Well, it doesn't matter if they're towed, they're still weird toasting patterns. Here they are, while they're being toasted. You see the apparent flames. Unburned paper in between. That's the perspective. And they're not toasted yet. And here they are a little bit closer. People evacuating the area. There it is, toasted. Can you?
Well, Mo B brought out a good point. She said that the tires didn't melt.
Right.
And that's true. That's true. All right, we're at 2650. I just don't, we went so long on, oh gosh, the other night. And I only have 20 hours, a month. So I'm trying to save time for us to finish out the month.
Right.
So we will, I wrote the timestamp down, and we will pick up right there next Wednesday. Oh, and I saw this too, this comment that Moby had made earlier. The Pope had basically been on hospice for a year.
Yeah.
He was in the hospital for 37 days. He went in the hospital when I was in the hospital with basically the same, he was having trouble breathing and developed pneumonia and all that. So, oh yes, Moby, it does make you rethink things. It's definitely made me rethink a lot of this. But it's hard to find, a lot of stuff about this, unless Moby, you picked up a lot, because I searched for stuff and I couldn't find it. All I saw was like a lot of stuff where people are saying, trying to prove the conspiracy theorists wrong. God, that's hard to say. Anyway, so I'm glad that you all came tonight, and I'm glad that we saw Grace in here for a little bit. Grace, if you're still here, thank you. Thank you to everybody for being here tonight.
Yes,
thank you to all of our new mods. Let's say our new mods would be Joan and Trix. Not Joan, Pork Chop and Trix. Joan has been a mod for a little bit. I think just it wasn't long after you, Sue, that she became a mod.
Yeah.
She just stayed real busy for the summer, and I knew that from the start. So I'm glad. Oh, Grace is still here. I know you did. I know you told me you'd still come by. And I was talking to Sue the other night. I said, our schedule has been so wacky. And I said, but the one thing, the one person's toes that we cannot step on are Grace Case and Miss Cassandra over there at Shenanigans. We're not ever going to do any kind of a stream on a Thursday night, Grace.
Right.
So, yeah. So, um, but, you know, uh, but anyway, listen, everybody, I'm so glad y'all were here tonight. And welcome to our new mods, Pork Chop and Tricks. Proud to have y'all a part of the team. And yes, and our true subscriber that's here every time we go live, and that would be Moby. She is everybody's mama.
Yep.
Everybody's mama. And smart as a whip. She knows something about everything. I can't ever get around anything. Nothing. I can't. So
Yeah.
anyway, we definitely love you, Mo. All right, y'all. We're going to jump out of here for tonight. I'm glad everybody was here and stopped by. I hope y'all enjoyed this. And
Yeah,
listen,
have a good
guys.
night.
Yeah, have a good night, and we'll see y'all Wednesday night. Okay.
Alrighty.
All right. Bye, y'all.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Sue.
Bye.